Hi, welcome to More Yoga with me. Emily, thank you so much for joining me today. I'm sorry that we couldn't meet live today. I am at home and sick with a cold, and hopefully that's all. So, this is part two of our Mental Health Awareness Week of yoga. And one thing that people talk about a lot these days is sleep hygiene. So, sleep hygiene is the stuff that you can do before you go to sleep to help you sleep. It includes, well, it could include a little bit of gentle movement or stretching like we're going to do, or going to bed earlier, turning the phone off earlier, and then also helping you sleep through the night. And of course, getting enough of it is one of the most important things for mental health. Just ask anyone with a newborn baby out there handling things, right? It can be very detrimental if you're not getting enough sleep. So that's why I thought we'd do a really gentle, cozy, sleepy practice. So it's something that you could do before bedtime. I was about to set up actually on my bed because this is all stuff that you could do on your bed, but it's not that kind of video. So here we go. A pillow at least will be really useful. If you have other blocks or towels or anything that you can use to, just help cushion some of the positions that we're going to be in, that's a beautiful thing to have or to do. So I'm going to set up, because I have all these props, in a way that works for me. So one block like so, another one like this guy here, and then a pillow here. If you have a bolster, one of those longer pillows, that can be fantastically useful. Just occurs to me that my daughter has one upstairs, but it's all good. So any sort of way that you think you can prop yourself up to lie back. And again, it could just be one pillow. Just that little bit of lift can feel fantastic on the body sometimes. So sitting up with it behind the back, make sure that your head is fully supported though. So if you have a shorter pillow like I do, you want to scooch down a little bit so that you have at least a little bit of support for your head. In fact, I'm going to bring down even further. There we go. And then legs can be however you want them to be, whether the feet are apart and knees together, or you might take the soles of the feet together and your knees wide. You could have your arms out by the side. You might even do a couple gentle snow angels here and just see if there's somewhere that feels even better for the arms to rest. A little bit of tension across the chest and shoulders will help ease things out a bit here. And then for 3 breaths, if you can breathe through your nose, inhale through your nose and exhale, sigh your breath away. A couple more. And continue breathing however you need to, whether it's in and out through your nose or your mouth. And then try to forget about your day and acknowledge what has happened, whether good or bad, but then try to let it go so that you're just here and now, breathing gently. And then really starting to focus on your breath. Notice your inhale and your exhale. Notice how your breath is flowing, whether it's fast or slow or deep or shallow. Maybe it feels really smooth, or maybe you notice some sticky or choppy spots along the way. And you might notice the rise and fall of your belly or chest. A widening and narrowing of your rib cage. Or a subtle movement elsewhere in the body with every breath. Last few breaths here. And start to bring a little movement back to the body. And then roll all the way over to one side. And use your hands to press yourself up to seated just long enough that you can take all of your props off to the side. If you have props. And then come down onto your back. So allowing the spine to neutralize a little bit. It might feel like you're falling through the floor or through your bed. And then start to draw your knees in toward your chest. Take a little rock from side to side, massaging out the base of the spine and the pelvis. And then bring your feet to the floor, keeping your knees bent. Here is a really great place if you have a chip foam block or a pillow or something like that to press your feet into the floor and lift the hips up a little bit. And then bring your pillow or whatever you have underneath your sacrum. So not under the lower back, you want lots of space there, but under the sacrum, under the bum. And then hug your knees in toward your chest. So we did extension through the spine. Now we're going to get a little bit more flexion. And depending on how high or low your hips are, this will feel more or less, you'll get more or less flexion, but you've still got some, provided that the hips are lifted. And if you don't have anything to bring underneath your hips, don't worry about it. Just hug your knees into your chest. So in fact, I am going to lift my hips up a little bit higher. You can always go in and out of these things and test, right? See if what you're doing feels like it's the right amount of lift. Maybe your pillow is really squishy, like mine happens to be. So you add a second thing underneath. There we go. Now I'm getting to where it feels like I'm getting more of a release through the low back. You can hold on to your thighs, but generally with the hips lifted like this, the knees will just comfortably fall toward you without any work. You could keep them here. You could take the knees wide out toward your shoulders or armpits. That helps release through the hips a little bit more. Also gives your belly a little bit more space. So if you've just eaten like I have, maybe that is what you need today. And even here, you might be still, or you might take a little wiggle from side to side. Last couple breaths here. And then slowly release your feet back to the earth. And then press into your hips. Lift them up so that you can remove any props out from underneath of you that might be there. And then draw your knees in toward your chest again. A little rock from side to side. And then start to extend the legs up to the sky. So the knees could be bent. You could point or flex through the ankles or toes. You can reach your legs, your arms, rather up to the sky, and draw circles with the wrists or fingers. Just gently moving here. Allow the legs to sort of sit back into the floor though. So the whole sacrum, the pelvis is really rooting into the earth. Same thing with the shoulder blades. So try not to reach too much. Allow the shoulder blades to be flat-ish, as flat as they would ever be on the earth. And then gently bend the knees and release your feet to the floor. Keeping your left leg where it is, pick up the right leg, cross your right ankle over top of the left thigh, and this might be where you want to stay. Really gentle figure four stretch. One way to deepen it would be to bring a block underneath the left foot, or gently pressing that right thigh away, or maybe you start to draw your legs towards you. You could use a strap behind your leg if the leg doesn't comfortably come all the way in, or at least close enough that you can interlace your hands behind the thigh or over top of the shin. You could rock a little bit from side to side. This is a really great stretch for releasing tension of the day. Right, all of the work of the day, whether you've been working out or even seated at the desk. Sometimes these muscles get pretty tight. And then keeping your ankle crossed, gently lower your left foot back to the floor. Option to stay like this with the legs, or second option is to cross the thighs and then shift your hips a little bit to the right. As you exhale, lower your knees over to the left. So a crossed twist for the spine. Now you could prop underneath the knees if you like. Generally, you don't get as deep of a twist here, or rather, your knees won't comfortably hit the floor as well as the shoulder blade rooting to the earth, unless this is your favorite form of twist. But again, it should feel gentle, right? So don't force it. Stack lots of pillows or props underneath your legs. I find this one really gets into my low back. And then slowly inhale, come back to center and uncross the legs. Reset your spine and your pelvis. Maybe you do a little windshield wiper of the knees. And then when you're ready, bring that right foot to the floor, cross the left ankle over top of the right thigh. So figure four on the opposite side. Again, you could stay here, gently pressing that thigh away from you. You could lift the foot with a block or a pillow, or maybe you draw your thigh toward you using a strap or your hands. And you could rock a little bit from side to side or just be totally still. few more gentle breaths here. And slowly lower your right foot to the floor. Keep the legs crossed. Option is to stay here and allow the knees to hang over to the right, or maybe you cross that left thigh over top of the right and then let the knees shift over to the right. So wherever you need to be, as gentle or as deep as feels good for you. Maybe you have a block or a pillow that you can prop underneath the knees or thighs to give yourself a little bit more support here. And again, staying here for a little bit longer than we normally would, just allowing gravity, essentially, to work its magic on our body. Deepening the twist ever so slightly without having to force it. Just the weight of the legs will do that for us. Last couple breaths here. And then slowly inhale, come back to center, unwind your legs. Take them mat width apart and just do a little gentle windshield wiper of the knees. If you're using a mat, if you're on your bed, just take your knees wider. And the next time both knees are over to the left, pause there. So this is a great place to stay. If you would like to deepen it, then you can cross that left foot over top of the right thigh. And maybe you just allow the weight of the legs to hang out here. Or you could squeeze the bum a little bit on the right just to get a slight bit of activation, a little lift of that right hip to get deeper into the hip flexors on the right side. That right arm could reach up back behind you. You might even look right. And then gently unhook the foot if it's there. And then inhale the legs back to center. Little windshield wiper of the knees or thighs. And again, in theory, we're doing this in preparation for rest or just as a gentle yoga practice. So you don't need to deepen it if you don't want to, right? The idea is to slow the body down, slow the mind down. Maybe that ankle hooks over top. You can let that left hip be passive or squeeze the bum a little bit more. And if the foot is hooked, gently unhook it, come back to center. Little windshield wiper of the knees. And then making sure that the feet stay wider than your hips, allow the knees to hang in toward the center. This is a fantastic place to stay. If you'd like to, you might, I don't know where any of my props are gone. If you want to bring a block or a pillow or something underneath your hips, then just gently lift them up. Place it back in that place underneath the sacrum. And then again, allow the knees to hang in toward each other. Anyone who has tightness or issues with your SI, your sacroiliac joint, in the sacrum, this can be a really fantastic release. But we have to stay here for a while to get that release. So, a couple minutes here.
Allow the breathing to slow down. And notice where your mind has gone. If it's jumping from thought to thought or tracing the progress of your day, acknowledge that, but then try to let it go. And just come back to the breath. And every time that you are able to bring your focus back to your breath, then you're meditating. Right? Last breath here. And slowly heel into your feet back so they're about hip width apart. If you have anything underneath your sacrum, gently press into the hips to lift them up, or press into the feet to lift the hips up rather. Remove the props out from underneath of you. And again, a little rock from side to side. From here, heel and toe the feet together. So the soles of the feet touch, and then the knees will go wide for a butterfly pose. Some people will feel comfortable here. If you have pillows or blocks or something that you can bring underneath your knees or thighs for a little bit of support, then that's a really great thing to do. Depending on how squishy your mattress is, right, if you're in bed, then the mattress might just be supporting your thighs for you. And then maybe you bring your arms out to the side or at least palms facing up. A little wrap of the shoulder blades onto the back. So there's opening through the heart as well. And even here, allowing gravity to slowly work on your joints, on your muscles. Breath slow and sweet. A few more moments here. And slowly, you can use your hands, start to draw your legs back toward each other. Little windshield wiper of the knees or release however you need to. And then our last pose is going to be legs up the wall. So if you have a wall available to you, you kind of like scooch toward it and then swing your legs up. If you don't have a wall available, then you can join me in a variation of legs up the wall, Viparita Karani. I really like bringing something relatively small underneath my hips for this. At least this way it becomes a more restorative variation of the pose rather than being a strict hamstring stretch. The closer your hips are toward the wall, the more you're going to feel this in the hamstrings. The further away they are from the wall, the less you'll feel this. And it just becomes a really great position for draining fluids out of the body, particularly if you're prone to peripheral edema, pregnant women in particular, and allow the arms to rest beside you. Another thing that I like doing here sometimes is to put a strap around my legs or a band so that they don't flop around. I don't have to use any strength to be here. If your heels are resting on the wall, though, then that becomes easier as well. So, a couple deep breaths here. Particularly if you happen to be up against a wall. This is a wonderful place to stay for even up to 15 minutes sometimes. It can be very, very restful. Super sleepy. If you're in the middle of the room, it takes a little bit more effort. So it might not be easy to stay that long, but we'll all be here for a few more minutes anyway. Allowing the breath to settle. And as with any pose, if you're done with it, you're done with it, and that's fine. If you'd like to stay longer, please feel free to stay longer. You can pause the video or just let it run through. And from here, you can always just lower the legs to the earth and fall asleep if you wish. Or slowly let your heels slide down the wall, or hug your knees in toward your chest if you're in the middle of the room or the middle of the bed. And then allow the feet or the knees to come to the earth. Lift the hips up and roll over to one side for a few breaths. You can always bring a pillow underneath your head. And as I say, you might just stay here and fall asleep. You could always rest on your back or in a seated meditation or in child's pose. And then for 3 breaths, inhale through your nose. Exhale, sigh your breath away. Couple more. With each exhale, let your body melt a little bit deeper into the earth or into your bed. Allow the breath to return to a natural rhythm. Let go of any last muscle gripping or tension. Thank you so much for joining me today. Sleep tight. Namaste.